Teacher is aware of the insufficiency of their strength. However, despite the fact that Fran is aware that they are weak, she desires to become more powerful by gaining a greater mastery of Teacher. Right at that moment, a pair of goblins attacked them, and Fran quickly dispatched both of them with a single slash. Fran, who is surrounded by additional goblins, gets ready to attack them while making a solemn vow to improve her strength. Teacher comes to the same realization that Fran does, which is that his excessive protection was, in turn, a way for him to avoid getting hurt. Teacher makes the decision to help Fran to the best of his abilities because he wants to match Fran's level of determination. Fran utilizes Teacher to kill goblins from that point forward, all the way up until dusk. Because of this, Fran has gained a level, bringing her total to 12. That night, Fran and Teacher pay a visit to Garrus's shop. While there, Garrus makes a remark about how exhausted Fran appears and finds out that she has killed more than 100 goblins. The Teacher then inquires of Garrus regarding the possibility of repairing Fran's armor, and mentions the fact that Fran will be tackling her first dungeon in 2 days' time. The following day, Fran discovers the goblin hideout dungeon, but Teacher forbids her from going inside. Instead, he recommends that they collect the goblin crystals from the dead goblin. Soon after, Krull, Lily, Eustace, and a couple of other intrepid travelers approach them. The goblin lair is brought to the attention of the party by Fran, who explains that a dwarven explorer asserts that the lair did not exist a month ago and that the location is actually a recently discovered dungeon. During the time that his party is monitoring the dungeon, Krull recommends that Fran go back to Alessa and talk to the guildmaster about the location of the dungeon. When Fran finally completes the task, Donadron questions her about the number of goblins she killed, but Fran's response is unable to provide a definitive number. After that, Klimt asks Fran if she could answer the question in a more concrete manner. So, with the assistance of Teacher, she responds that she killed approximately 130 goblins, 20 of which were high tier. Donadron is under the impression that a number of this magnitude would indicate the presence of a goblin stampede. Klimt offers his thoughts on the current state of affairs and is perplexed by the fact that it is now being referred to as a dungeon rather than a hideout. As a result of this piece of information, Fran has been elevated to the F rank. After some time has passed, Fran tells Garrus the news, and he fixes her armor using the help of 4 mana crystals that are laid out on a table. Teacher expresses how impressed he was by the restoration spell that Garrus cast, and he goes on to explain the characteristics of mana crystals, and the fact that the skill he utilized was that of an arcane blacksmith. Garrus explains to Teacher, who is curious about the price, that the initial repair would cost 10,000 gold, but subsequent repairs would cost 30,000 gold due to the fact that crystals gradually lose their effectiveness over time. After that, Fran inquires about dungeons, and Garrus provides an in-depth explanation of dungeons, as well as their cores and masters. After Fran has finished putting on her armor and is prepared to leave, Garrus informs Teacher that the bespoke scabbard he has requested will be ready the following day. When Fran returns to the inn, Teacher checks her statistics and discovers that she has been given the new title of Goblin Killer. Following this, Fran insisted that they take a bath together, to which Teacher voiced her objections, but they went ahead and did it anyway. After Fran has cleaned herself off, she begins to clean Teacher until Nell, who is accompanied by 2 other women, interrupts Fran and points out that bringing her sword into the area where people are bathing is a breach of proper etiquette. Fran is stopped. Teacher is taken aback upon seeing Nell, and the 3 of them go on to have dinner with her later. Nell expresses her displeasure to Fran regarding the fact that the Knights Brigade chose not to assist in the goblin hunt, leaving the entirety of the situation in the hands of the adventurers. She goes on to say that the Knights Lieutenant, a nobleman by the name of Alsand, despises adventurers and was the one who refused the request for assistance with the upcoming goblin quest because of this hatred. Nell then states that she wishes Amanda was there to help and proceeds to explain her full name and title. However, Amanda is unable to assist due to the fact that she is currently participating in another quest in the Great Wolf Plain. Fran asks Nell about the gods after observing that the god of chaos is carrying out its duties. Nell elaborates on the gods and reveals that the god of chaos is a female. Fran is surprised to learn this information. Following this, Fran inquires as to whether there ever was a god of war, to which Nell replies that there once was, but that it fell from grace as a result of becoming addicted to power. After this, the previous god made an attempt to subjugate the other gods, but he was unsuccessful, and was ultimately defeated. Several of his severed parts were spread and sealed across the land, and this was the end of the former god. Monsters such as goblins and orcs formed from the parts of the object that were not properly sealed. The information is thought to be insightful by Teacher, but Fran's brain is unable to process the abundance of information that she has received. As a consequence of this, teacher sends Fran back to her room and lets her sleep for the remainder of the night. The day after, Fran and teacher pay a visit to Gareth's shop, where they hand over the bespoke scabbard that teacher had previously requested. Teacher doesn't waste any time and dives right into the sheath, which exhilarates him immediately. After that, Gareth explains the one-of-a-kind characteristic of the sheath, which is that it can be opened vertically by using a switch located on its base. After that, Fran and teacher meet up with the other adventurers who are in charge of bringing the goblin dungeon under their control. They are led by Donadron, who goes over the specific objectives of the mission. During this, a large number of goblins emerge from the dungeon in a horde. Because of the sudden nature of the ambush, the adventurers break up into smaller groups, which teacher believes was the intention of the goblins all along. After that, Fran saves an adventurer who was being held hostage by a hobgoblin, and then she decides to head deeper into the cave so that she won't attract attention to herself by collecting crystals there. Fran uses the ability Air Leap to gain an aerial advantage before casting the spell Tri-Explosion to kill multiple goblins at once. This occurs before she reaches her destination. After that, she uses Sonic Wave to kill a number of them, and then immediately use Flare Blast after that. Now that there is a clear path, Fran and teacher head inside the cave, where the dungeon master is gloating about how the ambush he orchestrated has the humans in a tizzy deep inside the cave. A shady figure appears next to the dungeon master as he laughs, and it floats alongside him. Watch this next video.